Hey everybody, thanks for joining. Give me a second, I'm going to just test a few things and then we'll get started. Okay. Alright, so I'm live on the Restream chat, so if you guys have any questions or comments in either YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, feel free to type them on in here. And I should be able to see and respond. Let's see here. We'll play some ambient music in the background. And let me know if at any point that's too loud, and I can turn it down. Alright, what's next? Let's test the audio on ZBrush Live. You might hear double audio for a second. Test the audio on ZBrush Live. That is working there. And let's test it on Twitch. Audio on ZBrush Live. And it's working there on Twitch. Perfect. Alright, so that should be everything I need. Let's get the ball rolling. So, my name is Aiman Akhtar. I'm one of the artists for ZBrush Live. ZBrush Live is a streaming platform, kind of, that you've got all these amazing ZBrush artists that do this live streaming, and they share their tips and techniques and projects. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go to pixelogic.com, ZBrush Live, author, and then Aiman Akhtar, and you can see all of my stuff. And so this is going to be video number 41. And I tend to talk about 3D printing and ZBrush ideas to reality. And what I mean by that is coming up with an idea, whether that's a 2D idea or just a vague idea in your head, sculpting it in ZBrush, and then making it a reality through 3D printing or some other means, like 3D printing. So I've got a bunch of videos on here you can go to the backlog and check out. Let's do an update of last week. I tend to do like a start with the show and tell, and then I'll get into this week's project. So last week's video, I was sculpting astronaut for the Formlabs Summit. Let's see if you can make this kind of big. Yeah, so you can see how I went about posing that, sculpting that, fixing it up for print, filling any weird gaps or spaces, and then preparing it to print in Preform, which is Formlabs print prep software. Those are the two printers I use because that's the most common question I get. What 3D printers do I recommend? I've got the Formlabs Form 2, which is a stereolithography resin printer, which is this guy right here. And then I've got a Raise 3D N2 Plus, which is a big FDM printer. And I'll show a little bit about that today too. Alright, so I showed the process from start to finish, kind of preparing that print, the astronaut guy. And so let me show you what he turned out as. Alright, make this video screen a bit larger. And here's the print. So here's the 3D printed out astronaut fellow, waving. It's going to be kind of hard to see because it's in clear resin. I'll see if I can get a photo uploaded and then share that shortly. But yeah, basically going from ideas to reality. I need to clean up the supports, obviously, and then he'll be ready to display on the shelf. I might prime him too, because if you leave the clear resin like this, lower the volume. If you leave the clear resin like this out too long, it tends to turn yellowish. But yeah, all cured and finished. So one more project. See if I can pull up a photo of it. Move this back down. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing more of my past projects, I tend to make a bunch of my fungus ores. That's my own IP that I'm developing, and things related to that. And then all sorts of little 3D printed projects. If you're interested in learning more about 3D printing, you can see more of my work at aiman3d.com. There's a whole section in there 3D print sculpture, where I talk, where I've got samples of toy prototyping, costumes, maquettes for concept art, large-scale sculpture, stop-motion animation, and that's some stuff I cover in my class on Mold 3D Academy. You can go to all classes, self-paced class, and then there's 3D printing for ZBrush artists. And for $200, you get 8 weeks worth of lessons, and you'll know everything I know about 3D printing and sculpting in ZBrush. I cover slicing and keying, post-processing, 3D printing in SLA and FDM, miniatures, jewelry, wearables. So yeah, that's mold3dacademy.com. All right. Like I said previously, my latest project is Fungusaurs, my little dinosaur mushroom hybrids. This was a Kickstarter project I started a couple years ago, where I came up with these characters and sculpted them in ZBrush, the little dinosaur mushrooms, 3D printed them out and painted them, and then took them around, took a bunch of photos everywhere we took them. And then we did a Kickstarter to mass produce the toys. And we've got them now. So you can follow Fungusaurs on Instagram. You can see the journey basically going completely idea to reality. One of the coolest things I got to do with Fungusaurs, see if I can find it. Go to Instagram, Fungusaurs. Alright, scroll down a bit here. Here we go. So I got to partner with Monster City Studios and James Powell, who helped me basically create a very large version of my Paradox, and it's become like the feature display of my booth every time I do an expo. This is the size of the toys. This is like a largest 3D print I can do on my Raise 3D. I could get a bit bigger if I slice up more, but in one go that's about it. And then this is a foam milled Paradox is the name of this character. And so this is not 3D printing. This is foam milling, and it's a very different process. 3D printing is additive, which means it's layer by layer by layer by layer, step by step. Foam milling is done when you've got a giant block of foam and a robot arm, like an 8-axis robot arm with a Dremel attached to the end of it, drills away that foam until what you're left with is the shape that you want. And then after that, the artisans of Monster City go through, a lot of trouble to coat it, so it's like a hard coating, and then they paint it by hand. So they do an excellent job. This is Monster City, shop located in Fresno, California, monstercitystudios.com. And they do all sorts of projects. One of the ones we're going to be talking about today is the Magic Wheelchair project. You can see all of their stuff in their portfolio. Here's the Magic Wheelchair Raptor. I believe this was sculpted by Daniel De Leon, if I'm not mistaken. But a beast of a character. There's James right there. And they built this whole thing large and life-size to scale to lead, a kid who's disabled in their wheelchair so they can feel normal and they can feel like the life of the party. And it's an amazing, great cause. And Monster City Studios has done a few of these now. And so you can check out their work at monstercitystudios.com. And this is Magic Wheelchair. So magicwheelchair.org, and I'll share this link in the Restream chat. You can check them out if you're interested in seeing more of their work, if you're interested in volunteering or donating to their cause. So I think it's a brilliant cause, the Magic Wheelchair Project, nonprofit organization. And I'm happy to be able to do a little contribution. That one looks like brilliant. There's like a How to Train Your Dragon one, I think, or just a dragon one. Ryan Wheeler is the founder here. And they've made so many different types of amazing wheelchairs for so many different kids. Superman and Batman one. The Flash, the speediest wheelchair around. Wonder Woman's invisible jet, loving it. So yeah, that's Magic Wheelchair. Let me see what you guys are asking on Restream. Let's see. People are asking if I've updated to the latest version of ZBrush. I have not. I think I got the email yesterday, so I will be doing it shortly. Sean Lake over in the house. What's up, Sean? Good to see you again. James Powell, 10 of them. Magic Wheelchair's done 10 of them. That's awesome. No, Monster City's done 10 Magic Wheelchairs, I'm guessing is what he's saying. Art and Time saying, how long did that model take to print? I'm assuming you're referring to this guy right here, and this took about, I'd say, 3 or 4 hours, so not that long at all. You can tell it's not that big, you know, it's about 3 inches tall, so yeah, not that long at all. Printed at 50 micron resolution on a Form 2. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, just drop them in here, and I will be happy to answer. Diego Munoz on YouTube is saying, along the whole process, what would you say is the hardest part that you would like to make easier? Which process are you talking about, Diego? I went through like 2 or 3 different things already, so specify which process I'd like to make easier, and then I'd be happy to answer. Alright, so Magic Wheelchair, check them out. I'll keep bringing them up through the course of this project and pointing your attention over to there. Great cause, I highly recommend you donate. Let's see, I was there recently for the unveiling of the Magic Wheelchair at the Toy Association Toy Fair in New York back in February. And so the unveiling of these things is a big deal. So I'm happy that I get a chance to show you a little bit of the process today, kind of the concept and like sculpting phase. But really, the final wheelchair is going to look pretty different because the artisans at Magic Wheelchair are going to, at Monster City, are going to put their touches on it. So the reveal is still going to be a really dramatic reveal because whatever I show you guys today is going to be like 1/10 of the process. So this is the reveal at the Toy Fair. And you can see how excited everyone gets.
What do you think? Are you ready to go? Yeah! Oh my gosh!
It's really a touching scene. It's really a fantastic project. And then they get the kids loaded up in these wheelchairs, and then they, you know, show them around, and they have such a great time, you know. That's really what it's about. So this is the project we're going to be working on today. Magic Wheelchair My Little Pony. And we've got 3 My Little Pony characters that are going to be leading this carriage. Pop on over into ZBrush. I'm going to have to go to my render and turn on my render booleans, live boolean. Right now the pieces are kind of being booleaned out of this cart as we work on it. I'm going to do a little turnaround so you can see the whole project as it is so far. Three characters I've sculpted so far. This one's called Pinkie Pie. The eyes are the fun part for me. Trying to capture that, like, not anime look, but like really cartoon look in the eyes. She's got balloons on her side here, her flank. That's her cutie mark, I think they call those. Let's see here. Switch over to the other side. This one is called Rainbow Dash. Very different eyes. You can tell this one's got a lot more attitude, as she would with that kind of hair. And her cutie mark is like a rainbow coming out of, or a lightning rainbow coming out of a cloud, I'm guessing. And then lastly is this one, Princess Celestia. Her cutie mark is just this giant sun. And she's got it all. She's got the crown, she's got the unicorn horn, she's got like some bling, not just necklace and like crown, but also on her hooves. I don't know what those are called. I'll have to figure out what those are called. But she's got the wings, the flowing rainbow hair and tail. So this one was a really fun one to sculpt. Yeah, and my process for sculpting all of these pieces are just to kind of take it one by one by one. I can kind of show you each of the pieces, give you an idea. There's the body, kind of looks like a deer almost. There's the hair. And the coloring that I do is just purely for reference. It's going to be milled out of foam in a solid color. And then the guys at Monster City are going to do a group, all the painting and handwork. So all the color work I'm doing in ZBrush, that's just for their reference. I like this horn. I'm interested to see how much of this horn detail is preserved in the milling, or if they find a different way to do it. Yeah, so there's the sculpt so far. I've started this last week, so I had a few days to get it this far. Today we're going to be focusing on this carriage, the backside. Let me show you actually how I got the concept. Credit where credit is due. All of this you see in ZBrush is based on a drawing here done by Mia Powell. That's James' daughter. And so you can see this is where the idea cometh from. There's the Rainbow Dash, there's Pinkie Pie and Princess Celestia. I made the decision to not have Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash all be on their hind legs rearing, just for balance sake. It's a good idea to have 4 legs on the ground, or 3 legs. You can see here, at least 3 legs. So Celestia also then stands out as being the only one rearing with the legs up front. But also, I put the tails on the ground. And so like if we focus on Celestia for a second, so there's 3 points of contact now. There's the 2 back hooves and the tail. And the tail, I guess, has like this large point of contact. So at least it's a tripod. And this is the kind of thing you have to think about when you're talking about making something real. It's not just the sculpture. It's not just the, making it look pretty in ZBrush. You got to think about it like an engineer. How does it actually come alive? And so you always have to make some changes to a concept. But this is a brilliant concept, so I wanted to give credit to Mia. Great job, Mia. I'm going to be looking on this side right now, the cart, to start decorating it out. All the cutie pie marks, I guess. Looks like all the symbols are going to be on there. There'll be some decorative, I don't even know what do you call them, some decorations all along the top arch. So I'll be doing those. And I don't really know what to do for color. I started just making it kind of like a peachy brown, kind of like an actual carriage. But maybe it's either a rainbow carriage or maybe it's pink. So we can kind of experiment with some colors and see what we come up with. If we do too much pink, it'll match too much with Pinkie Pie. So maybe a combination of pink and blue and white, or rainbow. I don't know. We'll see. So thank you, Mia, for the excellent concept. And that's what we're going to work on today. Whoop, whoop. And if you stick around till the very end of the stream, I'm going to do another reveal. Just to give you guys a little carrot to stick around. So I started sculpting a Cubone mask after I saw the Pokemon movie last week. Here's the mask, all finished and done. And it's going to be fitting on my assistant today, wherever he is. This is Kuma. So if you stick around, you can see me put a little Cubone mask on him. That's in my Raise 3D printer right now. It's all done. And yeah, stick around till the end of the stream and you can see that. But for now, I'm gonna jump onto the Magic Wheelchair project. Let me do one more check to see if y'all have any questions on Restream. And yeah, Let's see. All right, Naragivorgian saying, how do you make the pieces so polished? In ZBrush, I imagine. A lot of smoothing. 14 million for that resolution. Yeah, I mean, it's really, the higher res you get in ZBrush, the smoother you can make things. I tend to not scale until I need to, but I'll show you how I go about smoothing things. Brony is everywhere. All right, sweet. Zidane from Indonesia, your work is impressive. Yeah, man, happy to show my process. Least I can do. All right, great. So yeah, if y'all have any questions, just drop them in the chat. Whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on ZBrush Live, Facebook, or YouTube, I should be able to respond and see. All right, so let's take a look at resolution first. So this is 5.3 million polys. Let's see, in total there's 14 million. So let's see, let's break it down a little. And I'll show kind of the process of getting it finished. So right now you can see Celestia is about 5 million polys, and she's made out of a bunch of pieces. So there's the body, the horn, the hair, the tail, the wings, the hooves, the jewelry, the crown, the eyes. So they're all a bunch of pieces that together are coming to 5 million polys. But at the end of it, she gets, let's see, Dynamesh all together, which is the process in ZBrush where multiple meshes get unified and then decimated. And when you decimate it down, ZBrush's plugin is great at just minimizing the detail. No, minimizing the distortion to detail. It keeps the detail the same, but it just minimizes the poly count. And now I've got it down to 895,000 polys. So that's less than 1 million polys to get the final finished piece. And I tend to, when I'm working in ZBrush, color these pieces bright green, so I know this one is the one to export. This is fully finished and ready to print. Here's Rainbow Dash, even less, 537,000 polys. She doesn't have as much going on, jewelry or hooves or horn. And here's Pinkie Pie. Got a little bit more detail, a lot more hair swirls. But yeah, I think in total then, each of these characters is less than 2 million polys. And the poly count really doesn't matter for 3D printing. It matters only if your printer can't handle the resolution. And the limiting factor there is usually the USB or whatever way you're transporting the data from your computer to the printer. That's usually the limiting factor. All right, so I've got these characters here, got a little ground plane set up for myself. I'm gonna do some large-scale thinking about this wheelchair, and then start decorating it out, and you can see a bit of my process for sculpting and preparing stuff in ZBrush. We're gonna do this for about an hour or so, and then we'll switch gears. All right, so for now, the first thing I want to think about is how are these characters leading this carriage? Now we thought about putting a harness or something like a collar or something to attach to the carriage to, for them to pull the carriage. But in my experiments, putting anything kind of on their waist or their butt, it just kind of changes the design too much. Also, the wings get in the way, the tail, the cutie marks. So it's like, it's not ideal to put a harness on these characters because it changes these characters. Also, they're magic ponies, so there's no real reason they need to be pulling this cart through traditional methods like a rope or something. They can use magic to drive it forward. Still, if they do want to add any kind of rope on there, that's on me to think about and prepare for it. So I'm going to go to the primitives, and let's see if we can find something like a torus. Here's a torus, like a ring 3D. And so we can take this ring 3D, we can make it a poly mesh, come to it along the side here, and we can create an insert mesh brush. I'll do a new insert mesh brush. Let's go back to my project. Taking a look at this cart. And I'm going to navigate over to the center of this cart. And I can draw it out. You can use the Move Transpose tool to bring that in. And now I've got a little bit that they can attach any ropes to, or any kind of I don't picture ropes. I kind of picture it as one of those sparkly ropes. You know, those really thin, sparkly ropes. Like it's something that can be easily draped onto the characters, kind of around their neck or something, and attached up to here. So I'm going to go ahead and split unmasked points. There's the ring. MRGB, color fill object, so it matches with the rest of the cart. And then let's turn off these characters. Go to the deformation, maybe do a little inflating. Thicken it up a bit. There. And that kind of keeps with the whimsical nature of all the curves around here anyway. So I like that. We can also play with it a bit. If I mask that area, Control tap to soften that mask, but not too much. Invert it and move these pieces out. You can make it feel very different as well, just kind of more similar to these edge pieces. But I like how round it is, so I might leave that as part of the design, whether James and folks at Monster City, they can figure out how to loop some ropes through there, like some sparkly ropes. Let's see if I can find a picture of a sparkly rope so you guys can get what I'm talking about. Sparkly rope. Brilliant. Google Maps. No, Google, just images. Just see if you can find what I'm looking for. There, twine. That's the word I'm looking for. Sparkly twine. I think it would be cool if there's some twine kind of like magically pulling the cart forward rather than like a legit harness and rope. Alright, something for you to think about, James. Sparkly twine. Alright. Next, you kind of saw how I went about creating an insert mesh brush to add a part. That's how I feel is the best way to add a lot of those cutie marks along the side, as well as like the decorative details up at the top here. So let's start with those decorative details, because they're a bit simpler than the cutie marks. Cutie marks looks like they require some sculpting. So with these decorative details, looks like I've just got a simple sphere, like a circle, and then a wave. So I've got to figure out how to make a wave, and then the sphere should be pretty straightforward. So let's make one of these little waves. I'll switch to the simple brush, press Control N to clear my scene, and let's see, best way to do this, I'm guessing, let's start with the cube. I'll make it a Polymesh 3D. We'll go to Dynamesh. Let's move it out a bit. Dynamesh it again. These cubes come in at ZBrush's default scale. So I'm going to go into Deformation and scale it down a bit. Dynamesh again. And now you can see the resolution has dropped drastically, because ZBrush's Dynamesh scale is based on your actual scene scale. So if you make your item smaller, your Dynamesh will provide less resolution, which is really great. So I'm just smoothing here, and I'm going to use my Move brush to start moving these ends. Now you can see when symmetry is on, it's going to move both. I don't want to do that. I want to create kind of like a little wave. Let's keep it really simple. That's what one thing I've learned through my years of sculpting. Sometimes when you're trying to create something cute or appealing, simplicity is a virtue. More often than not. So I'm pulling at the edges using the move brush, just using smooth to lighten them up. And I could do something like take the pinch brush along the center and create a little sharp line. Now this is going to be good for a decorative feature because the way the light's going to hit it, it's going to be a lot more visible than if it was just rounded. I'm going to Dynamesh as I go. Now I don't want to Dynamesh again just at the current resolution because it'll crunch and lose too much detail. You see that? So I'm going to up the resolution now and try again. So that works now. Around 640. And I can tap smooth again, pinch again. So this is just some of the behind the scenes process for sculpting something like these Magic Wheelchair projects. It takes a team, it takes a village to make any amazing project. It's never really done alone. And the folks at Magic Wheelchair are really, really awesome. The one that I was showing you in New York was actually done by my friend Brett Klitsch. And that was at least the carriage. He made the carriage all by himself. He's a shop in New York called Peru Meridian Studios. And Magic Wheelchair really partners with anyone who's talented and good at making stuff. And they work with companies all across the United States. I'm not sure if they're all across the world yet. We'll have to ask the folks about that. Alright, so I don't want these edges to get too sharp. I'm just playing with the idea of keeping them round, but no, there is some sharpness called for, just not too sharp. Alright, that's looking good. I want to make sure that it's looking good from all angles. That's the job of a 3D artist. I'll pull some of these edges back. Pull some of these edges back. Then I'm going to select kind of all of that region. The goal is to make it look good primarily from the one angle, but I want to make sure that it reads and it buries deep into the cart. Dynamesh that, smooth it out along the edge. Alright, one more hit with the pinch brush, and that should be ready. Alright, now if I wanted to save on resolution, I can decimate this piece. It's about 29,000 polys, but this is something, you know, it's tiny, but it's good to think about something like this because once you make lots and lots and lots of them, it's very easy to quickly, you know, go up in resolution. Alright. Good to look at it from a different scale as well. I could make this a lot more perfect, but I like leaving things a little bit uneven. It adds to the craft element. Feels a lot more handcrafted and not mechanical. Alright, so we're going to go to Z plugin, Decimation Master, Pre-Process Current. and then decimate current. So that brought the resolution down from 29,000 to like 6,000. And yeah, it's got all the detail, especially at the small scale. So now we're going to go over to here and say, let's go back to my ring, and let's say create insert mesh. I'll append it onto my previous ring. And so now I've got the ring, and then I've got this wave here. That's what we're calling it. Let me switch also to a simple sphere 3D. This one's 8,000 polys. You can decimate this slightly too. Make it a polymesh 3D. That's a bit too low. Let's go to 50. There we go, about 4,000 polys. And then we're going to append this as well. So we'll create insert mesh brush, append. And so now we've got a sphere, the wave, and the ring. Let's go back to our cart, and let's start using these decorative elements on our piece. Now we've seen the concept art calls for decorative like this. So you've got a wave circle, wave circle, wave circle, and you don't have to be super precise, but I tend to always count how many the client or the illustrator thought to put on first. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 waves, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 circles. So that's generally what I want to play with. Something similar. So I'll keep the reference actually open on my right hand, which is my other monitor. Then we can start drawing them out. Alright, so if you take a look to see when I draw it out, it tends to hang on top of the mesh. Now that's not something that's engineerable or printable. So we want to make sure we adjust the brush depth. That's under brush. Scroll down, whoop, depth, and then you can adjust this slider here. And when you bring this down, this will start burying the piece into the mesh, and if you lift it up, it'll just have it floating. So I kind of want to do a little bit of burying. Let's try again. See, that buried it way too much. So maybe a bit higher. There we go. Now this piece is a bit more, a bit deeper. There. Let's try that. There you go. Perfect. So now that looks like it'll be able to read that detail. And once we're done with it, we can move them all together if we want to. Alright. I may end up inflating all these pieces as well, but we'll see. We'll play it by ear. There's one. Two. I'm going to try to do it a few more times to make sure I can get it relatively the same scale. And I want to leave room for those spheres there as well. Now these could be a lot, you know, kind of like flowing one into the other, but I like the chaos of it. It kind of reminds me of Vanellope von Schweet's cart from the Wreck-It Ralph movie. It's all sorts of candy, just strewn about and stuck on with glue. A bit further apart. I can already see the scales tending to get a little bit larger the further I get, so you gotta make sure I keep that restrained. There we go. And last one. All right. I like these, but they're a bit thin as compared to the reference. I'm gonna Control Shift click and invert. That way I can select those pieces. Let's hide a few more pieces, I guess, first. Select these. And we'll do a subtool, split unmasked points. There we go. Now I've got nothing but those little waves selected. And I can go to my deformation tab and inflate all of them. So you can inflate them at the same time. So that's about an inflation of 5. And that reads a lot better. You got to think about like how big this card is going to be. So you want to make sure that those are very legible. Let's try 4. Yeah, that should do the trick. All right, now let's go back and add these spheres. So I'll switch from my wave here to the sphere. Let's start adding those in. Now change the depth because this sphere looks like it's floating just completely on top. And I want it a bit buried. There we go, like that. Yeah, for those of you that didn't see what I did, I've got the brush depth, kind of on my custom UI right here because I use it so often. So just come over to here and adjust that. For you guys, that's under brush depth. All right, so now I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to go through here and add these spheres all along the centers of these waves. All right, let me see if you all have any questions on Restream before I move on. All right. James is saying, I guess we'll be buying sparkly twine. Cool. All right, let's see. Oh. All right, Narek's saying after decimating, the normals become really bad. And that's honestly, a ZBrush thing. ZBrush tends to show the normals as flattened normals. If you take it into another application and soften the normals, they're fine. So, greetings from Portugal. I don't know how do you say greetings in Portugal. It's Portuguese, so it's morning. I've been to Brazil, so I'm guessing it's similar, like, and it was like boa tarde and boa noite. So I'm guessing boa tarde. All right. Danifer, hello again. And you get that too with the gizmo. I'm not sure what to. Greetings from Mexico. Hola. All right, so there are a few magic wheelchairs around the globe. That's awesome. All right, Narek Gevorgian saying, how much does printing material cost? I can answer that shortly. It really depends on what kind of print you're doing. How I managed to sculpt the twisted horn. So I actually use Maya for that. It's a lot simpler to do certain things in Maya for me than ZBrush. Maya, Blender, Max, Cinema 4D. They're just simpler for procedural object creation. I just created a spiral, and then I ran a deformer on it to shrink the top. That's it. All right, Udra D, you got a UI config 4R8. Okay, so your UI is crashing the ZBrush 2019. You got to just make a new UI. Sometimes, with software, you can't expect your old UI to carry over to the new UI. Udra D saying the waves are thicker in the center. I can mess with those. All right, here we go. So yeah, back to the material cost question. It really depends on what you're printing and how you're printing. So if I'm printing in liquid resin, resin from Formlabs can cost up like $150 per liter. So a print like this, here we go. Let me make this a bit larger. So a print like this, that's not that big, is going to be like $6 or something, like $5 or $6. But if I do a print on my rays, which is FDM, it's not $150 per liter for the roll. It's like $20. It's $20 for the liter of the entire plastic roll. So it's a much cheaper printer to prototype on. And for $6, I can get something that's not this big, but like that big. So you can scale and really, so it depends what material you're using, what technology for the printer you're using. The resin printers, because of that higher cost, and you get better detail. So those prints are a lot finer than the Raise 3D or the other, FDM prints can be. So yeah, that's basically the cost. All right, here we go. Let me go back to ZBrush and add. Good questions, everyone. You can keep them coming, and I'll answer them as I can. Now, if I want to be really, really precise about this, I can duplicate that one sphere and move it into place. But I like having a little bit of whimsy in my sculpts, especially for something like this. So unevenness isn't the end of the world. If I was doing something for production, I don't really get to, for VFX or animation, I don't get to be as whimsical all the time. All right, so I can see already that these spheres, I can make them pretty big over here, but then they have to be pretty tiny over here. So I want to make sure to start at the small point. Because that's about how big I should make them. Ha! You've been looking at my face. I always do that. There. I had started over here, and I was making the spheres really big, and then I came over here and I realized they had to be kind of small. So I'm undoing those. I'm just making them small first. Alright, so getting a little bit larger as they go, but not particularly noticeable. Alright, so there we go. There's some decorative detail. We've got to mirror it over onto the other side. Let me see what happens if I go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Mirror and Weld. Looks like that worked. Sweet. So now I've got detail on both sides. There and there. Alright, just for giggles, I want to see if I can adjust this. Let's pick something like a pink color. Under MRGB, in our standard brush, we can fill object as long as the RGB intensity is on 1. And you know what? I like what's happening here, and I kind of want to replicate it on the inside of here as well, just so it's a bit more decorative for the young girl inside as well. I'm going to select this piece, duplicate it, and move the whole thing in. So I've got X symmetry on. No, I don't. Wonder why it's doing that weird how strange. Alright, I'm gonna try to delete part of it. Oh, I know what it's doing. The render booleans is hiding it, so I can't see. You gotta expect the unexpected when working in ZBrush sometimes. Alright, so I want this piece to be on the inside here, and I don't want it affected by the render booleans. So I've got to change the order of the render booleans. Where are my render booleans? There's the wheel. Ah, here we go. So that's the PMD cube. That's the one that's responsible for doing the cutting. So if I want to do anything on the inside, we've got to make sure that this cube is in my layers stacked differently. So let's go over to here. I'll select just those pieces and I'll split them off. And then I'll move them below the cube. Same with these decorative elements. If they're below the cube, now they won't actually get affected. So now I can move this piece here and it won't be affected. I'm just gonna come along to the side here. Make sure they're about the same amount. Yeah, like so. Perfect. Then I'm going to go to this cube. And let's see what happens if we just extend the cube a bit further. So we'll go to deformation. Under, let's try X resolution. Make it a bit thicker. So I like that. I like being able to see the decorative elements on the inside too. Now this is something that James may not do, but I think it's good to experiment and check it out. So I'm going to do this here. And I'm going to Z plugin. Nope, actually I'm going to go to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. So I get the decorative elements on the inside there as well. And I'm going to start splitting different pieces off that cart and bringing them down. So I'll split hidden. Bring this piece also below the cube. Disappeared. Where'd it go? Oh, it's off, that's why. Here we go. Now you can see it a bit better. Let's go back to this cube, adjust it a bit. And adjust the scale of these pieces. Whoop. Make sure X symmetry is turned on as I do this. And then navigate over to those decorative elements on the inside and move them in as well. There we go. Alright, so that's looking nice. Let's go ahead and adjust this piece also. Or maybe I should bring this just like right to the line, that edge. Uh-oh. It's tough. It's tough because it's like it doesn't read really well. Yeah, so this is the process. You got to experiment and see what's working and what's not working. This does not seem to be working. So detail only on the outside there. Delete that for now. Come back to it. Let's play with some more color and then we'll go ahead and start adding those cutie marks all along the side here. Alright, so if we've got pink for those pieces, let's turn on our characters I can pick the blue from her and try to make these pieces that color. Select the pink from Pinkie Pie here also. Oop. And make it the same color of pink. Or maybe from her tail. That's a bit too pink. Let's pick some different colors like the yellow and see if that looks better on any of these pieces. And the whole piece turned yellow now. What if I only do it to do auto groups, so I can split pieces off only to that part. What if this part is white? Because we're going to put all the cutie marks on it anyway. And then that piece can be white too. Well, green doesn't really make sense if the grass is going to be green or whatever base they're using. Let's try purple. Bit too dark. And there's no reason these need to be symmetrical. Symmetric? Yeah. So you could have different colors on this side and this side. Something to play around with. Right now I'm just thinking about the base colors and what looks better, what works better. Got about orange, that might work well as a transitional color. Red, of course. Clicking on auto groups to allow me to actually select only the parts I want. That's still too pink. I'm going to do purple. I should commit. can even color the Boolean cube on the inside. And I'm leaving some white there too because Celestia. So I'm trying to use the colors that we've already got in the scene. Oh, cracked everything. You know what? I think it would be fun if the wheels were made out of that that red and white candy cane kind of look. I don't know if that's something we want to do, but if I were doing that, then this piece wouldn't be red anymore. Let's make it more blue. Yeah, it's starting to come together now. And that way then you can come over to here and start thinking about these. Kind of like candy canes. And that's the fun you can do in ZBrush, that it's a lot easier to experiment here than it is in real life necessarily. I'm doing a quick brush around to see if I like this look or if I'm going to try a different one. I think there's something there. There's something to the whole cart being kind of whimsical and candy-esque. Let me save the scene because it's been a long time since I saved. We'll call this wheelchair number 5. Alright, here we go. The girl's name is Kendall. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Alright, so I'm going to surprise Kendall with this. And ultimately, it's going to be a surprise because I'm sure those crazy talented folks at Monster City are going to do some cool stuff with it. Alright, here we go. This is much more fun. So a candy cane wheel I just searched, and it's got that white and red, but it's swirling around. And that's more fun. I like that. Ooh, and there's this too. You can do like a little thin strip. Boy, that's fun. I'm trying to think about how I would go about painting something like that in ZBrush. And the easiest way is to paint it kind of masked and then do a swirl on it. Alright, let's try that. I like that idea. Alright, I'll keep the reference up open to the side. Cassius left saying, hello, mustache man. Thank you. It's growing slowly but surely. I'm having fun with it. Okay, so let's start by making like a candy cane wheel. So I'm going to start by just coloring it all white again. Got a bit out of hand there. And we don't have much resolution here, so we're going to need to up the resolution. Divide it. Divide again. Yeah, about a million or less. That should give us enough resolution to work with. Turn on local symmetry. If we do something like that. Switch to my mask lasso tool. So activate symmetry. If I do activate symmetry on the x-axis, it lets me select these areas, so that's good. Let's see what happens if we activate symmetry on the z-axis. That's cool. So now I can affect both this way and this way. Perfect. Alright, so what I want to do now, solo this out for a second. How many swirls do I want? I'm thinking 4 big swirls. Like I said, the color stuff that I'm doing here is just for reference, because ultimately it'll be up to the folks at Monster City. And just judging by what they did with my paradox, they're going to do an amazing job on this too. Sweet. Looking pretty nice. Alright, got that. Looks like this top one is a bit larger than the rest of them. Hard to gauge when you're doing it kind of by hand. There we go. You know what? I gotta identify the center of this if I'm gonna do this right. So, I'm not gonna do this with solo mode. I need to make sure at least that piece is on. Otherwise, it's always gonna be a bit wonky. There we go. Now the direction of this mask really matters because you can get a straight line if you go in the right direction, and if you don't get a straight line. And I want a straight line. Alright, yeah, that's pretty even and clean. I'm going to go ahead then invert this selection and apply that red on there. Did that work properly? Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because the Boolean selection is having fun with it. It's hard to tell. It's like there's a double mask or something. How strange. It's like when I move it, it looks right, but as soon as I drop it, it's all wonky. Let's move this Boolean up out of the way, so it's got one less thing to think about. And let's kill the resolution and bring the boolean back under. See if that fixes it. That's so wonky. But now it's also not fixing it when I move, so that's a pain. Strange. Alright, I'm going to figure this out. The struggle with the candy cane wheel. In the meanwhile... Alright, sweet. So James from Monster City is sending me some pictures right now. I can update along the way on how it's going. So there's the Rainbow Dash character, the ZBrush sculpt that you saw coming to life. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. There, Rainbow Dash to there. Look at that. Looking awesome. Here's Celestia, and here you can see how it's being milled out by a robot arm. Kind of like a giant, almost like a unicorn horn attached at the end there, milling it out of a giant block of foam. How awesome is this technology? You can see not 3D printing, but still pretty freaking cool. Subtractive. And you can see the cutie marks there, all the pieces of the tail, the horn. It's doing an excellent job. Looks like the top of the horn got skewed off, but I think James can fix that. This is so neat. Thanks for sending these photos over, James. It's looking great. Alright, so 2 out of 3 ponies have already been milled. So yeah, you guys are in for a treat when the whole thing is finished. Let's see, check the restream chat. Alright, Neri Geborgian saying use radial symmetry. Yeah, I can try that. 16 symmetry points. Well, symmetry is cool, but it won't let me have a thick and a thin point. That's why I was trying to use the masking. What size is the real one? That's a good question. I think that's a question James can answer. I think it's got to be, you know, it can't be 1-to-1. Like, you can't make an actual pony, but you can make it pretty big. I mean, just looking at the size of that, you know, Celestia with that robot arm, it looks massive. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. Fill object. Select that. Let's do a quick one. Mask looks fine now. Weird. Alright, back at it. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Identifying where I want this masked. I'm just going along and masking it. Thicken it out a little bit over here. There we go. And then conversely bring it down over there. Alright, then up over here. Alright, that's looking pretty even. I'm going to invert that. Select that color, and hopefully this time it'll work. Alright, looks like it worked. Huzzah. Okay. So I think having that resolution in there was making it hard for it to process. But now that we've got that, Now I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna come over here to ZBrush, the spiral brush. Click right in the center. I'm gonna turn off my Z on the symmetry. Just have X on the symmetry, so it does it on both wheels. Now let's twist. Alright, so when I do that, it looks like it's twisting both the... shouldn't be, but it looks like it's twisting both. I see it's Z adding, so it's bringing the edge out a little bit as I do that. Let's see if I can do that on just mRGB. Nope, it needs to be Z add as well. So I'll twist and then I'll flatten. Hopefully that'll work. So I'm gonna make this brush a bit larger. And there you go. Now we get like a really quick, simple twist in there. You can have really a lot of fun with this spiral brush, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna come over to the side now, select the clip curve, and in theory, this should work to flatten it. And still retain the paint. There we go. So yeah, there we go. Cover my Z add and smooth it down. And I might Dynamesh this again. I don't know, 128 resolution might be too low, but let's see what it does. Oh yeah, way too low. Let's try 456. Okay, 607,000 polys. Should be enough for me to smooth out that edge. And if it's not working, I can go to my light box under my brush and smooth. Where's smooth? Smooth, 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 smooth. There we go. And go to smooth stronger. And that way when I smooth it can really, whoop, I'm gonna make sure RGB is off, but I can really get in there and smooth those edges. There's got to be like 10 different ways to make a candy cane wheel easier than what I've done, but I did it, damn it. There we go. Just smoothing the edge of that wheel. There we go. Now I'm going to come around and try to add all those cutie marks all along the side here. Maybe get these decorations on some of these other pieces as well. There you go. Hopefully that did it on both sides. It did not. Of course it didn't. Didn't have X symmetry on. I'm going to, in that case, select only this part, delete, hidden, and mirror and weld again. Not on the local axis, but on the full axis. Darn. Okay, Z plugin, subtool master, mirror over the X. There we go. Attached it on as its own subtool, and there you have it. But you know what? I think I'm gonna see if I can duplicate that and bring it down over on this area too. Some extra decoration down here as well. I'm going to mirror those parts over as well. Now I've got the decoration on either side. Let's see if we want to do that same decorative motif over here, or we may actually want to do something slightly different on this one. We'll see. For now, I'll duplicate it, rotate it around and over. See if we like it. I'm a big proponent of the do and then see method. I'm going to mirror this, but not in the x-axis, but in the z-axis now. Let's see what that looks like. There it is. So I can delete this subtool now. Select that one. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad to just pull that same decorative element into here. And we'll just need to add a few more for the bottom. All right, let's hide the ponies. Scene's getting a bit heavy. All right. I'm going to go back to our insert mesh, custom insert mesh brush, since we have it here already. And then just add a few more of these. Or you know what? No, I've already got them figured out. So I can just duplicate this. And then rotate it down and around. There we go. Saved yourself a bunch of time there. Just need to pull some of these pieces around. More likely just delete these and redraw the rest. Now go to my insert mesh brush. Draw that one. Draw that one. Too big. Perfect. And then, oh, where'd it go? We'll have to come over to this one. This piece. I can find a point. There we go. And go to deformation, inflate by 4. Because that's what we did to the other ones. Oh, there we go. All right, neat. Neato. All right, I'm going to merge all the decorative elements on the one side. That's going to make it easier for me to work with them. because I can simply mirror the whole thing. Not on the Z, but on the X this time. And there they are. And I can merge these both down together and rename it to decorative. Save that and call it wheelchair 5. Carl Kritz on Twitch saying, when you say, oh, a 3D printing theme in Pixelogic channel. Nice, let's see what we got. Daughter walks in. My Little Pony, Daddy, I want it. Thank you, mate. I'm glad you and your daughter are enjoying this. Credit to the concept goes to Mia Powell, James' daughter. Came up with this excellent, cute concept. All right, I want to try playing with one more little thing here. And then we can add those cutie marks and move on. Whoop. Just using lazy mouse here just to add a little bit more flair to the wheels. All right. You gotta have fun when you're working on a My Little Pony. Cool. Alright, got all those decorative elements in place. Now we're going to add cutie marks. So cutie marks, let me see the reference. Here we go. Here's Mia's drawing. So we want a bunch of cutie marks all along the side here. We got a balloon, the diamond, the cloud with the lightning rainbow coming out of it, the star. I don't know what that is. That's a butterfly. That looks like some sort of apple. Alright, so I did download some reference for cutie marks, so we can take a look at what those look like as well. Alright, so here's a bunch of the cutie marks. So that must be what that one was, some sort of apple. Alright, so either we can sculpt these all into place, or we can try to take them into Photoshop and come up with masks. This is a mask I made for the Rainbow Dash character, and it's got multiple colors, so it's easy to differentiate, and it actually adjusts the mesh differently as well. So let's try adding that one, right here in the center. I'm going to come over to this piece. Now this doesn't have much in the way of polys. It's got 209,000 polys. And there's different ways we can go about this. We can actually try to extrude that shape in Photoshop and then bring it in, or we could try to extrude it out of our mesh itself. So I'm going to go over to here, geometry, divide, divide. Got 765,000 polys. I don't think that'll be enough, so I'll divide one more time. Got 3 million polys now. I'll import the texture, there we go, rainbow dash mark, and I'll select it and I'll click on make alpha. When you make it an alpha, it shows up in the alpha palette, and now you can use it with the drag rectangle stroke with any of your standard brushes. And I'm going to go to brush, not brush. I'm going to go to alpha and invert that alpha. So under alpha, you can click inverse, and now it gets rid of all the white on the outline, and it just leaves you with exactly what you've got. So I'll go over to Z add. I'm not going to worry about the mRGB right now. I'll color it in later, since the color is really only for reference anyway. And I want to adjust the focal shift. I want to bring it down. Usually I bring it down to like negative something, because then when I draw it out, here, let's increase the Z intensity, the whole thing will show up. Whoop. There we go. So it looks like we need a little bit more resolution. It's still a bit crunchy, even at 3 million polys, which is a lot. But here, there we can see the starts of it. And I guess the bigger I can take it, the more the resolution will start to simplify. And the focal shift, if I leave it at 0, you'll see it'll kind of blend along the edges. So the edges, if we look at it from a side angle, won't come out as much as the whole center. That's why I changed the focal shift. Bring it down a little bit. Because that way when I do it, then the edges are coming out. Now if I do it all the way to negative 100, you'll have just a fully static piece. Not static, just fully flat from top and bottom. So there's no bend at all. Which is nice, but I don't want that much. I want there to be a little bit of a bend. So the idea is to get a bunch of these cutie marks all along the side here for this cart. And then Dynamesh and smooth and clean up and then get it ready for the finals. Let's import another texture in. I've got this Pinkie Pie mark. Go to the texture, select the Pinkie Pie mark, make alpha. There we go. Turn off the texture, go to alpha, invert that mask, and let's draw some balloons. Alright, neat. Then let's go to texture. Let's import again the sun, which is the cutie pie mark for Princess Celestia. Select that, make it an alpha. Alpha inverse. We can draw that. That one comes out quite a bit more than the others because it's a lot darker. So we'll have to adjust the Z intensity. And keep them all coming out about the same amount. Alright, neat. So I'm going to go ahead and add probably a few more cutie marks to this. 1, 2, 3, something like that. Maybe different ones to the other end. And that's basically the project. There we go. So I'm going to keep noodling with this, and you can get an idea of what's going on in my head. But yeah, that's basically the direction, or this attempted direction, for this Magic Wheelchair My Little Pony chair. I'm not going to keep going on this because the final version may end up pretty different, and I want Kendall to be pretty surprised when she sees it. So this is as far as I'm going to take it in the stream. Thank you all for joining to see this. I'm going to save this scene. I'm going to now switch gears, and for those of you that stayed, I'll reward you with a little show and tell. and we'll take a look at the Cubone mask I made. And it's done and printed now, so we'll take it off the Raise 3D printer and we'll put it on my dog, see how he likes it. Alright, so let me see if y'all have any other questions on here. Oh, by the way, John Wick 3 was excelente. It was so brilliant. I can't wait to go watch it again. Such a fun ride. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Alright, so cool, James answered some of the questions of how big it can get. 10 by 10 by 10, oof, that's a lot. And they can do 1-to-1. Alright, so I want a unicorn machine in my house, don't we all? Alright, perfect. Everything is candy. Yes, exactly. Life is candy. Okay, so let's switch gears now to the Cubone mask. And I'm going to take it off my printer. So for you guys to see that, I'm going to take off this mic and go on over to there. So just enjoy the tunes for a second and watch as I take this mask up out of my printer. Get tangled up. Sorry if y'all get vertigo as I do this, but need to remount my camera. Try to do it as gently as possible. Let's see here. A little bit shaky. I feel like I've done this somehow better so that you can see more of what I'm looking at without tilting it along too much. I see, it's just a bit too far. That's all. Alright, so there's my Raise 3D printer. Might be a bit hard for you guys to hear me now because the mic isn't as close, but this piece right here is the foam milled paradox that James did for me for Monster City. My little fungusaur. Not so little fungusaur. You can see the excellent paint job they did on it. And this is kind of what the end of the My Little Ponies one should look like too. So I'm excited to see the finished piece. I'm going to leave this up top here. This is my Raise 3D N2 Plus. It's like a 12 by 12 by 24 inch build volume, so pretty big. I'm going to open the case and pull out the build tray or build platform. We got 4 of these little clips that keep the build tray in place. I'm going to move those. Then it should just slide out. And there you have it. So there's the mask. You can see I added a bunch of supports just in case so it doesn't fail or fall down. But it's printed upside down, so I'm going to remove the mask from the build tray and then pop it off, quickly clean the supports, and we'll do a test fitting. Place this over here. A few different ways you can remove a print. So I've got this spatula. That's a good way to lever things off. Or this simple modeling clippers. And they're pretty good for levering things off. And I'm going to try to use these. So I don't know if you can, yeah, see. There we go. Pop the thing off the build tray, build platform. And now what I want to do is remove all these supports along the side. So this was sculpted in ZBrush too and printed in FDM. And you don't need this many supports for FDM. I just kind of wanted to make sure that the beginning points don't fall off because it's such an unusual shape. But luckily the supports kind of just peel off. So I'm just grabbing them with my hand and ripping them off. It'll create a bit of a mess, but it should be quick. Tray comes off. And then I like support removal on an FDM machine. There's like very little mess. And there we go. All off. Which we're left with the mask, which we can do a test fitting for. Most of the support nubs are off now. Double check. Yeah, there we go. So there's the mask. Now this is not meant for me. Although I could, I guess, wear it, but this is meant for my dog. So let's put it on. I've made a few different masks for him before. I made a Black Panther mask for him, and I made different masks. But let's see if he likes this one. All right. I'm gonna move this around. Let's rotate it and get my assistant in place. Okay. Everyone, meet Kuma. Sit. Good boy. Alright. Obviously, he's not used to this. When I tend to put masks on him, I only put it on for a little bit. Let's get this in position. Stay. Stay. There we go. Let's do a test fitting. Bring it up over and on. Look at that. Looks a bit wide. There's a little bit of a give, which is good. You don't want it to be too tightly fit, but it goes nicely around his ears. Let me see, up. The eyes, it gives him a lot of space to look out, which is good. But yeah, it feels just a bit too wide. Like I can stick about, 3 fingers here in the mask between him and his head, which is good. I guess I could add some padding, but I could reprint this to be a bit tighter. Let's see. So, a lot of space in the front for his nose, so he can breathe through it. That's good. But basically, this area right here of the mask needs to be moved in a little bit. Yeah, I did this based on the dimensions of my Black Panther mask, and it's a bit wider. So maybe I can find another dog with a little bit of a wider brim to wear this, but here's my little Cubone. Alright, you can see on the inside of this mask I've added a little hole there so you can run a elastic band through it. So tune in next week and I'll show you the finished piece after I've done some polishing and sanding and painting, and I'll get it on Kuma and take some photos, and yeah, that's it for this week's stream. Thanks for joining, everyone. Now I'm gonna go give Kuma some treats, and I will see you next week. All right, thanks for joining, everyone. Cheers.